For over 40 years, a quiet, vicious war has been raging in the Middle East. It's a conflict fought not on traditional battlefields, but in the shadows, with spies, secret militias, and covert ops. We're going to untangle this incredibly dangerous triangle between Iran, Israel, and the United States and figure out how these three nations went from being allies to the absolute brink of all-out war.
And this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? This is a war that has quietly shaped our modern world, pushing the entire Middle East to the edge time and time again. And yet, it's probably one of the most misunderstood conflicts out there.
Just look at this. It's wild. On one side, you have Iranian, American, and Israeli leaders, all smiles, shaking hands, partners. And on the other, burning flags and revolutionary fury. It is so hard to even wrap your head around today, but before 1979, Iran was one of America's and Israel's best friends in the region. So what on earth happened?
Well, that brings us to the one event that flipped the entire script, the Iranian Revolution of 1979. And this wasn't just a change in government. Oh no, this redrew the map for the entire Middle East.
And it happened so fast it would make your head spin. It started with protests. People were just fed up with the Shah's government, the corruption, and his ties to the West. But then came Black Friday, when the army opened fire on protesters. And that was it, the point of no return. The Shah fled the country, and just like that, poof, a monarchy that had stood for 2,500 years was gone.
10 million. Just think about that number for a second. That's how many people poured into the streets of Tehran to welcome Ayatollah Khomeini home from exile. This was not some backroom deal or a military coup. This was a tidal wave of people demanding a totally new direction.
And the new guys in charge? They did not waste a single second sending a message. They literally kicked out the Israeli diplomats, tore down their flag, and handed the keys to the building over to the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO. Their leader, Yasser Arafat, was treated like a visiting king. The signal could not have been louder. For Israel, an old friend was gone, and a brand new, very dangerous enemy had just arrived.
And then, the event that would poison the well with America for generations. The U.S. Embassy was stormed, and for 444 agonizing days, American diplomats were held hostage. For the United States, it was an unforgivable act of terror. For Iran's revolutionaries, it was a righteous blow against the great Satan. After this, there was no going back. The break was total.
So, with the doors to diplomacy slam shut, you'd think things might quiet down, right? Nope. The conflict didn't stop. It just changed its address. It went underground, into the shadows. A war fought by proxy.
And the first big test case for this new kind of war was Lebanon. See, in '82, Israel invades Lebanon to wipe out the PLO, and they do it. But here's the thing. In doing so, they create this massive power vacuum. And who steps right in? Iran. They see a golden opportunity, send in their elite revolutionary guards, and start training and arming the local Shiite groups who'd been ignored for years. And out of that chaos, Iran's masterpiece is created, Hezbollah.
And then, something happened that absolutely shocked the world. In 1983, a suicide bomber drives a truck packed with explosives straight into the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut. 241 American servicemen are killed. For the West, this was unthinkable. This kind of attack, a suicide bombing on this scale, was a horrifying new playbook. It was a brutal announcement that a new deadly player was on the field.
And the crazy part? The big powers, the US and Israel, were caught completely flat-footed. This quote from an Israeli intelligence officer says it all. I mean, they were so focused on the PLO, which they'd already beaten, that they didn't even see this much smarter, much deadlier group forming right in front of them. It was a classic case of fighting the last war.
So the proxy wars are heating up, but the whole game is about to change. The threat level is about to go from bad to potentially world-ending. We're talking about the ultimate weapon. Okay, so this is a really key moment. It's 1991, the first Gulf War is over, and the U.S. decides to hold this big peace conference to redesign the whole Middle East. Everyone who's anyone is there, except Iran. They're left out in the cold. And you can bet Tehran got the message loud and clear. The adults table is for our friends only. If you want us to listen to you, you have to make us listen.
And if they had any doubts about being on the outside, President Bush's axis of evil speech wiped those away for good. I mean, think about it from their perspective. The U.S. has just invaded Afghanistan. They're about to invade Iraq. If you're running Iran, you're pretty sure you're next on the list. So what do? You go for the ultimate insurance policy, a nuclear program.
But here's one of those fascinating what-if moments in history. In 2003, Iran actually reaches out. They send a fax.
of facts, basically offering a grand bargain. They said, let's talk about everything. Our nuclear program, Hamas, Hezbollah, the whole shebang. But Washington, feeling pretty powerful after invading Iraq, just ignored it. And for the hardliners back in Iran, that was the final proof that talking was pointless. And that brings us right up to the modern era, to the latest chapter of this whole saga, a chapter that saw a brief, almost unbelievable moment of peace, followed by a spectacular crash and burn.
So a new U.S. president comes in and the tone changes completely. President Obama starts speaking directly to the Iranian people, not just the government. And that little bit of respect, that change in tone, was enough to crack open the door to secret talks. The goal? To stop a war over Iran's nuclear program that everyone felt was coming. And you know what? For a while, it actually worked. In 2015, they pulled it off. The Iran nuclear deal. The basic trade was simple. Iran would mothball huge parts of its nuclear program, and in return, the world would lift the sanctions that were crushing its economy. Supporters were calling it a historic win for diplomacy.
But not everyone was celebrating. Israel, to put it mildly, hated the deal. Prime Minister Netanyahu argued that this wasn't dismantling anything. He said it was basically giving a dangerous regime a stamp of approval and a huge pile of cash to fund its terrorist proxies.
And then, in 2018, the whole thing fell apart. The United States just walked away from the deal, slapped all the sanctions back on, and that was that. That little window of diplomacy slammed shut. The shadow war was back, and this time, the stakes felt even higher.
So that's where we are, 40 years, from allies to sworn enemies, from open diplomacy to shadow wars and nuclear threats. It seems like every single step has just led to more conflict. It really makes you wonder, after all this time, is there any way out, or are they all just stuck in a forever war?